Hi, I'm JP, you're watching the Coffee Channel, and today I'm going to be making espresso with extremely cheap coffee. Now, for years I've been drinking things like this, which I'm sure you have. £10 plus coffee per bag, specialty roast, single origin, specialty roaster, light fruity flavours. When you go into a supermarket, you may find something a bit like this. £2.25, Italian style roasted coffee beans. Now, this differs not only in price from our coffee here, but in many other ways. Firstly, there's no roast date on it, so we don't know when it's roasted. It's probably very, very dark. There's no description of what the beans actually are, where they're from, or whether they're Arabica or Robusta. Now, I suspect they're probably Robusta. The only thing they really tell you about it is it will last a year, which is slightly worrying because I'm not convinced that roasted coffee will last a year, even in a sealed bag. I'd say probably after about 3 months, it's going to be tasting quite bad. And also, there's this weird strength guide on the back, which isn't really about strength at all. It's more about the roast profile, really. This is a very dark roast here, although not the darkest that they actually have, because it's 4 on the dark or strength scale, as they call it, which goes up to 6. So I try to think what the 6 would be like. Now, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and make an espresso with this and see if I can actually get something that tastes drinkable. I'm not expecting much, but we've got an EK43 grinder here, arguably the world's best grinder. We've got a La Marzocco FB80 machine. It's a top-end machine from a few years ago. It's a few years old now, but it should be able to make decent coffee with anything, shouldn't it? Or is the coffee so important that if we use anything less than the best type of coffee, it's going to produce something terrible? Now, there are a few tricks I'm going to use. With a darker roast coffee, like I suspect this one will be, and we'll have a look at it in a second to see how dark it actually is, the danger is that you over-extract the coffee. With a light roast coffee, it's almost impossible to over-extract it a lot of the time, because once you get to a certain fineness of the grinder, it just forms clumps and tends to go back towards under-extraction. There's like a hard limit above which you can't really go, which is about 21 to 22% extraction with an EK43. With a dark roast coffee though, because it's roasted darker, it's much more soluble in water, so it's much easier to over-extract it. How do we stop over-extracting? Well, there are a couple of things we can do. We can load up the basket with more coffee than we'd normally use. So in an 18-gram basket, we might put 19 grams of coffee in. That's within the range of parameters of the basket. And the more coffee we have in the basket, the less the extraction will be. We can also grind a little bit coarser, and we can run the shot a bit shorter. So we can do something, say, like a ristretto, which sort of means restricted in Italian. You don't see this much with specialty coffee because it tends to result in under-extraction because you're not running very much water through the coffee itself. What you're doing is making a very short espresso. Okay, let's make some coffee, see what it tastes like, and then see if we can change anything to make it taste better. Okay, so we've got 2 coffees here. This one on the left is a normal specialty coffee, a Caramo Village from Gardelli. This one, as you can see, is a cheap supermarket coffee and so much darker, so much darker. That's going to make the beans so soluble once they're ground up. So we're going to have to grind this quite coarse, but we're going to overload the basket and see what we get. Okay, so I've made an espresso, and normally I'd run sort of 18 grams of coffee and I'd run 36 grams out. So I start with 18 grams in my portafilter. I end up with an espresso that was somewhere around 36 grams, maybe 38. With this one, I put just under 20 grams into the basket, about 19.5, and I got about 22 grams out. I'm making it a ristretto, so it's restrictive flow. The idea being that you're extracting less from the coffee by running less water through it and putting more coffee in so that there's less extraction. So both of those things will decrease the extraction. Let's see if it tastes drinkable at all. Okay, so it smells very, very burnt. It smells like burnt toast. It's kind of weird. It's got a lot of crema on it. It seems like there's quite a lot of Robusta in this particular blend of coffee. I suspect it's mainly Robusta or it's all Robusta. Doesn't specify on the bag whether it's Arabica or Robusta, so I suspect it's Robusta. Robusta tends to produce like a more crema heavy espresso, and it's higher in caffeine as well, so it should give something of a hit. Okay, right. Ah, oh, good lord. It's just exceptionally bitter. It's not sour. It's just very bitter. I don't know why I think of mahogany, but that's the thought that comes to mind. It's not even like dark chocolate bitter. It's like 100% cocoa chocolate, but much, much worse. How can I make this better? I'm going to try and run it a bit coarser on the grind to extract less from it. I'm going to run it even more ristretto, so I'm going to only run 18 grams in, and let's see what we get from that. So I've made my second shot. I've made it even more ristretto, this time well under 20 grams out. So I've actually ended up with a smaller drink than the amount of coffee that I put in. It still smells pretty bad. So smoky. Would it taste bad? Okay, so that's slightly better. It's got a very thick mouthfeel, which is something you don't get that much in modern espressos. But it's still so bitter that really you'd have to put sugar in it, which is something that you never do with specialty coffee. It's like anathema to specialty coffee enthusiasts to put sugar in it. It actually makes it taste worse. But this would really benefit from some sugar. Now, I don't think I can get any more out of it. I think that's as good as it's going to taste. But it may be a bit better if we add some milk. So the next thing I'm going to do is make a flat white with it, see if it's palatable at all. Because at the moment, I definitely can't drink another sip of this. So I've made myself a flat white here. One interesting thing about dark roast coffees is that latte art is a lot easier with them. So if you're ever practicing your latte art and you want to get better and you don't want to spend a lot of money on coffee that you're actually going to drink, then a dark roast coffee actually works quite well because you've got more contrast. And with a Robusta heavy coffee, you've often got quite a lot of crema to work with as well. So it's easier to pour latte art. You get a nice, clean colour that stands out against the background. Let's see if this is at all drinkable. Okay, the milk has sweetened it quite a lot. So it's not that horrible taste at the front you get with the espresso. But there's this nasty kind of antiseptic, roasty kind of woody flavour that lingers in the back of your throat after you've drunk it. It's really quite bizarre. It's not helped by the smoky sort of smell of kind of dirty ashtrays. It's definitely improved it. I could probably finish this flat white just about, but really, this is not a good coffee. It's a well-made coffee, though I say it myself, with very, very bad quality ingredients. So, to summarise, £2.25 is definitely too little to pay for your coffee beans. Dark roast coffee, not my thing at all. Some of you may like it. I certainly don't. Whatever we did with our equipment, we've got some of the best equipment you can buy here. We've got the correct water chemistry and we're working with coffee the best way we can. We still can't get something that for me tastes good. So I'd say steer clear of this type of coffee unless you're practicing your latte art, in which case it's pretty good. I suggest that you don't drink it at the end. Leave that for a decent coffee. It's worth it. Okay, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any ideas of videos you'd like us to make in the future, any subjects you'd like us to cover, and any questions you want us to answer, just drop us a line in the comments below. Until next time, goodbye.